The Life Coaching Toolbox Podcast is brought to you by Joeel and Natalie Rivera of Transformation Academy. In this episode, Joeel talks about how to structure your group life coaching program. This episode is one of 6 episodes in a series about group life coaching.
So welcome back. Now we're going to be going over the structure, the basic aspects of the structure. And this is really the beginning and the foundation to your group structure. And before we go over it, I just want you to keep in mind that this is all about you. It's not about just saying this was the one that's going to make the most money or whatever. Maybe it's really what's going to make you happy. What's going to bring joy to your life? What kind of group is going to fit into your personality and what you want to create in your business and your lifestyle? So let's start with format. There's many different formats that you can take on when it comes to group coaching. You can have the in-person, obviously that you meet in person, face-to-face. You can have the teleconference. You can have the webinar, and you can have a hybrid where sometimes you meet face-to-face and sometimes you do a teleconference. And there's many things that you could do online now with the new systems where you can break people out in groups, and it's almost like if you're live, but you're actually in groups. So that's empowering when it comes to what's really happened in the coaching industry because of technology that's come up. So the other aspect that I want you to look at is the group size. So do you want a small group, 5 to 20? Do you want a large group? Really, large groups are unlimited. And really large, extremely large groups are better for educational, for where there's a structure, where people are working on specific things already and everyone's working on the same thing. While smaller groups allow that engagement where people can have more flexibility of what they're working on, where they can really have those discussions and that feedback. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't have large groups, because if you want to work with 10 people, if you want to work with 100 people or thousands of people, it's up to you, because now with technology, you can have a group of 40 people and still have engagements doing it virtually, because you can break people into smaller groups. And at the same time, if you're doing it face-to-face, you can always break people down into smaller groups. So it's really asking yourself, how many do you want to reach per year? How many people are you really wanting to reach? Or per month, that you want to get together and help in that process. So what is your group minimum? Is determining that. And what is your group max? I know many people that tell me that I work with in the field, I say, I feel comfortable with like 5 people in a room. That's like perfect for me. And I have other people that I work with that say, I want 30 people in that room, because the more people, the more energized I am, the more feedback that people can get, the more discussions I can have. And it gets me all fired up. And that's you, that's fine. If you like smaller group, that's fine too. The other aspect to consider is how long will these sessions be? And it typically lasts anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes. That's industry standard when you're meeting in groups, because that gives a lot of time for you to have several different structures within that session to really be able to help people in their transition. And it can also change. For example, some people have a longer 1-day or 2-day events when they first start a process. So it just really depends on your program. And then they'll have the 1-hour sessions, as follow-ups and things like that. So to be able to understand and develop that, you really need to consider, what are the goals of the group? Are they there for group discussions? Are they there for support? Are they there just to learn materials? Are they there for you to answer questions? And that's really going to determine a lot of how long it needs to be, because it's going to help you understand what you need to have. So when you look at your material, what do you have them working on? And how long is it going to take them to actually be able to work on that? And that's all important questions that you need to ask yourself that is going to help you. So then ask yourself, how long is this really the session's going to be? Are you having them work for 4 to 6 weeks as far as the groups? Or are you having them 8 to 10 weeks, 3 to 4 months, 6 months to a year? So really, when you start the longer processes and the smaller groups, you're really looking more at mastermind groups, where you're working with people and you're helping them really develop something concrete, long-term, and you're really reinforcing that. And really, you don't meet as long. So that, for example, if you have a 4 to 6 week program, then you tend to have a shorter program, but you meet more often. Where if it's, 3 months is 12 months, you might only meet once a month, but actually activities and things that you send them during that month that keeps them on task and that they're working on that process. And then you just meet maybe once a month or bi-weekly to kind of follow up and have that support from the group. But again, that's usually more of a mastermind when you're having a longer process. So also consider, what are the outcomes that you're working? And how long would it take for somebody to achieve that outcome? Because if you're looking for someone to have a fully functional business where you walk them through everything, you connect them through all the steps and stuff like that, is that really a 4-week process that you're going to be able to help them with everything? Possibly not. Maybe they need 3 months or really 6 months to really implement some of these things, to try different things and see how they work. So it really depends what you're trying to do with that. Is what's going to depend on how it's going to be able to benefit them. The other thing to consider again is how frequently do you meet? Are you going to be meeting weekly? Are you going to be meeting bi-weekly? Monthly? Because that really then also determines what the group can go over. Because if you're only meeting once a month, how much time then are you spending that once a month meeting? And what are you going over? What are the outcomes that you want to achieve with that meeting? Might be very differently if you're already meeting once a week. So those are things that you have to consider. And again, if you have a short program, you usually meet much more often. If you have a longer program, then you usually would have like maybe a one meeting that's much longer initially, or you might have where you, at the beginning, several weeks that you meet for every weekly for the first month, and then it tapers out into being like once a month or something like that. So it really depends. If you have a longer program, it usually would require for a lot more information initially, and then more as a support group as the group is building upon itself. So I hope that kind of makes sense. So it's really up to you how you want to do it. Also, maybe looking at the longer aspect, if you're doing a in-person workshop, that then you're doing a one-day workshop or weekend retreat, and then you just have regular meetings as a support group, a little bit more as what are you working on, holding people accountable and things like that. The other aspect to think about is homework. And I know homework, I like to call it fun work, but if they're working on some fun work, then you're going to have them doing things when they're not in the group. So how are they going to be able to reflect on that? How are they going to be able to hold each other accountable? So you got to look at that group structure that you're doing. When are they going to talk about that? When are you going to talk about giving them? Are you going to give them via email some activities right after the group? Are you going to give them handouts right after the group? Are you going to have group discussions that are going to help them come up with creative things that they're going to be working on for that week or for that month? So those are all things that you need to consider. And then how are you going to have those discussions when they come back to the group, and how they did, how you're going to celebrate with them and things like that. And again, you're going to be able to take a look at some of these things, but these are important things that you need to look at, because you're going to have to take time, and you're going to want to determine how much things you want to go over in a group to determine how long your group should be and how often you should be meeting in the group. And again, take a look at this information and then decide what works for you, because at the end of the day, it's about you being happy, about you being productive, because it's something that fits your personality and what you want to create in your reality. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Visit transformationacademy.com/toolbox to download free life coaching worksheets that go with the activities discussed in this podcast, plus other resources for creating a thriving life coaching business.